This webinar is organized by GFAR, the Global Forum on Agriculture Research, and is supported by the Shared Services team of the CGR Consortium, CGR being the Global Agriculture Research Partnership. During this webinar, the lady behind the scene is Tanya Jordan, who gives the technical support for our webinar tool. Say hi, Tanya. She's muted. My name is Peter Kazier, and I will be guiding you through the content. So together with Tanya, we're like the Colombian-Belgian alliance from Italy. Do note that I have a tendency to call Tanya as Nadia, who's actually another colleague of ours. So if I confuse you, it's Tanya and not Nadia. Now, this webinar is slightly different from the past webinars, as this one is really more hands-on. We'll look at a problem, and I'll give you what I found to be the solution that works for me for this problem, covering two tools I use daily. As people are still joining in, first a word on the logistics for this webinar, for the people who have not joined us in past webinars. We are all connected through a tool, a service called BlueJeans, which allows all participants to share video and audio. However, as we are a large group, we have 97 people subscribed to this webinar. Tanya will help me in muting people and muting the audio and video. You can do so yourself also. If you look at the icons on the right-hand side of your screen, you have a microphone button and a video button. Please mute both. Otherwise, we'll be hearing a lot of background noise from everybody, and we'll waste valuable bandwidth because a lot of people join us from areas in the world where the bandwidth is not very large. And if with 97 people we're all broadcasting video, it's going to go very slow for everybody, and people are going to start getting disconnected. So keep an eye on the right-hand side of your screen. The microphone icon and the video camera icon, keep those muted. But even just as important, on the top right-hand side of your screen, Tanya and I have people broadcasting background. Let me see who's broadcasting background. I have Sarah. If you could mute Sarah. Thank you. Now, more importantly, on the right top side of your screen, you have a tab with the chat symbol. If at any time during the presentation part of the webinar, you have a question or a suggestion or a tip, share it in the chat box. I will stop regularly to answer any questions or suggestions that have come in. I do encourage you to give these remarks and suggestions and questions because for me, that helps me. It makes me feel a little bit less that I'm talking to an empty computer screen. So please don't be shy. But also, it is really the questions and the tips that we all share that makes the webinar interactive and a learning experience for everybody. After this webinar, I will send you a document summarizing the configuration of the tools I will present you. So if during this part of the webinar you can't see the details of the screen, the main purpose of this webinar is to show you the flow and the background rather than the actual fields and where you have to put what in which field. So you'll get this in a nice script from me, which I will email to you after the webinar in a wrap-up document. Also, if there is any questions I cannot answer or I do not have the answer for during the webinar, I will come back to those questions in the wrap-up document. We will also send you a link to the recording of the webinar. Now, going back again to the problem. Tanya, we can start. I'll stop sharing my video and we can bring the presentation up. Voila. Thank you. The problem. What was the problem? I mentioned that we will look at a problem and suggest a solution that works for me. So what's the problem? Well, apart from trying to figure out what the real meaning of life is, I think a problem that many of us are challenged with is with the proliferation of online resources and online communications. We all struggle to keep up with a daily massive influx of information and a massive supply of information which is out there ready for us to access. So in practical terms, for each of us to keep informed of all things related to our professional area of interest, we do need to scan many different online resources. So in this webinar, I'll show you the solutions that worked for me. But first, a step back, because these tools I will show you are not the only sources of information, of course. Many of us work, or all of us work on social media. So of course, one of the first sources of information are the social media tools that we're using every day. One of them is Twitter. Tanya, we have somebody brought noise. I think Sunil, if you can mute them. Thanks. For the new ones who joined us, please do mute your microphone, otherwise we'll have a lot of background noise. Thank you. Now, Twitter is one of the tools I use to read information, but no matter how much I really love Twitter as a source of real-time information, there is a lot of clutter and noise in Twitter. So often it makes it difficult to really filter out the useful information. Personally, I use Twitter a lot to get the real-time news updates when something is happening, an event or a conflict or something. I want to have real-time information, but I don't really need it, and I don't really use it to get a full overview of what's going on in my professional area of interest. Tanya, if you can go to the next slide. Of course, there is Facebook also. So you can like different Facebook pages which are related to your professional area of interest. But still, your Facebook timeline will be a mix of items like the funny cat videos and the latest pictures from your niece on holiday in Greece and the impact of climate change on farmers in Gujarat. Simon and Sunil, please mute, otherwise I'm going to from you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, a note of interest. Simon and Sunil, you really need to page. Actually, you typically only see about 10% of the Facebook updates from the page, from the pages that you like on your timeline. Facebook has an algorithm, a selection, which is based on those pages you interact with the most. And these are Facebook pages or people you have as friends on Facebook. And many people who manage pages for their organization don't realize that. So they actually think that if they have 10,000 likes on their page, that also every single update is seen by those 10,000 people who subscribe to their page. And that is incorrect. If there is no interaction between you and the page you like, the updates of those pages will no longer be shown on the user's timelines. This is, by the way, as a side thought, for those of you who manage Facebook pages, an encouragement for you to interact with the people that subscribe to your Facebook page. If you do not interact, you might have 10,000 likes with a reach of 0, meaning nobody will actually see the updates of your page. But back again to the topic. Again, Facebook, I don't use to keep myself informed of the updates in my professional area because it's so mixed with my personal connections and with the pictures of my niece and the video from my nephew. So, the next slide, Tanya. Another one which is more geared into the professional area of interest is, of course, LinkedIn. it's much easier for us to connect to professionals working in our area of work than finding people through LinkedIn or Twitter. So LinkedIn offers a timeline similar to Facebook, which shows the updates from all of the people that we have connected to on LinkedIn. But as it is still not used a lot, much to my surprise, as a tool where people broadcast updates, I still find it very incomplete. It seems like most of the people still using LinkedIn as a way to publish a resume or to look at other pages rather than broadcasting. So while LinkedIn is a great social media networking tool, and to me it's one of the best and the most underutilized networking tools in our professional world, it's again not a way for me to read and browse through all of the updates of all of the websites and blogs systematically. Next slide, Tanya. So here we are. We're faced with the main source of our information that we can pull, that we can read, which are websites and blogs. A reminder for people who have just joined in, please do have a look, mute your microphone, otherwise we'll have a lot of background noise. Boris, if you could look on the right bottom side and mute your microphone. Thanks. So the main sources of information, that's really what I want to talk about in this webinar, are these websites. We have, I don't know if you are like me, where there are hundreds, if not thousands of websites and blogs, which are in my area of professional interest. Sure enough, we can browse the hundreds of websites of interest to us one by one, but this would be really time consuming to go through each of the websites and look where the updates are. Sometimes the updates are not even visible on the home page. So it would take you hours and hours to go through each of these. So the main question is, how do we keep abreast of all of the most recent updates for all of these websites and blogs we are interested in? Next slide, Tanya. So the key for me is RSS feeds. Typically, websites publish information in two ways. We have the visual websites that we all know and we all see, which we access through the normal URL. And websites and blogs typically also publish a second venue of information, which is an RSS feed. While the visual website shows everything in a nice layout, using the URL we typically know, www.gfar.net, www.cgr.org. There is also a hidden URL where we can see only the latest updates on any given site. Next slide, Tanya. So if we look at, for instance, the GFAR blog, this is the usual visual interface that we normally see as a user. Next slide, Tanya. If you look on the right-hand side, zoom in a little bit, you have different icons and you see the RSS icon. Now, if we click on that RSS icon, next slide, Tanya, then you see the actual RSS feed URL. It has typically a form, something like /feed or /RSS. This looks completely different than the usual visual website that we normally use. It is unformatted, raw text, but it sequentially lists the most recent updates from the website or the blog in a reversed chronological order, with the most recently published items first. But it is raw and unformatted text. So this is not really the way that we want to read updates, but it is a tool. And those RSS feeds, the URL of the RSS feeds are important. We'll come back to that later. Tanya, if we take the next slide. So how do we find RSS feeds on the website? Well, first of all, I need to tell you, not every website or blog publishes an RSS feed. It is mostly up to the web managers or the technical blog managers to decide if they broadcast an RSS feed or not, if they publish an RSS feed or not. To my view, and for those of you working on websites, in my view, it is really a crime against good web management if you don't publish an RSS feed for your blog or website. It's also poor web management if you do not make it obvious for people to find your RSS feed. Why do I say that? Well, to me, one of the arts of good web management is to be able to convert an occasional web visitor, maybe somebody who found our website or blog via Google search, and to convert those occasional web visitors into returning visitors. So you basically need to hook the an occasional visitor and hook them into a returning visitor. That conversion of the occasional to a returning visitor really makes, for me, the difference between a good web manager and a mediocre one, between a good website and a mediocre website. So having people subscribe to your RSS feed is a way to hook them in becoming a returning visitor. The same mechanism is also to try and have them subscribe to your Facebook updates or Twitter account or LinkedIn pages, etc., etc. Coming back again to RSS feeds and the RSS hook, where can we find them? Well, typically, I showed you one on the GFAR blog, which was on the right-hand side. Here is an example from the CGR website. You can see the RSS feed icon from the second from the right. Tanya, the next slide. Here is a little snippet to zoom in from a piece of the website from GFAR. You can see the RSS feeds are clearly marked. Next slide, Tanya. This is a zoom in on a part of the website, the homepage from the Landscapes forum website. Again, you see the RSS feed. So the first thing we need to do is, if we want to subscribe to these web pages for the tool we want to use, is we need to make a collection of all of these URLs of the different RSS feeds. Now, if we take the next slide, Tanya, thank you. But you are still faced with the challenge that if you're like me, and my Chinese sign is rat, so I love collecting things. So I have a collection of literally thousands of URLs of websites and blogs which are of interest to me. I still have a collection of 1,000 different entities. So what if we would be able to combine those different RSS feeds into one readable update? Or, in other words, how do we read a collection of RSS feeds? And the answer is using an RSS reader. There are different free RSS readers on the market. To me, the most reliable and functional reader is Feedly. You see the URL on the screen. Feedly comes for free. It runs on different platforms. It runs on your computer browser. It runs on a mobile phone, on a tablet. It has a very functional and fast user interface. It allows me to do many different things, functionalities that I'm looking for. So for me, Feedly is all I need. There are other readers, and I'll give you some examples in the wrap-up document that I will share with you after the webinar. Now, Feedly is a free tool. You subscribe, and then you can import all of the different RSS feeds that you have collected in your search for RSS feeds for the websites that you collected. Tanya, I'm going to share my screen now. Let me see first if there's any questions which came in so far, Tanya. Okay, I don't see any questions right now. We have Natasha struggling with her sound, but for the rest, so just a reminder for people, if you have tips and suggestions, do send them in, and we'll take a break from time to time to pick up different remarks that came in through the chat box. I'll share my screen now. All right. Tanya, I think we have my screen now. I'll prepare this tool. I have a test Feedly account where I will show you how to put in updates. Voila. This is a blank Feedly account, as you would normally get when you first subscribe to the tool. We now need to add content, which is the URLs of the RSS feeds that we have subscribed to or that we have collected. So let's take an example. If we go to the GFAR blog, I told you there is an icon here, RSS feed. If I click on it, I get the RSS feed and I see the URL. So if I copy the URL and put it in Feedly, I see the latest updates and I click on the green icon, Add Feedly. It allows me to collect all of the RSS feeds that I will import into a collection. Let's create a collection called, for instance, AgriFeeds, my agriculture website feeds collection, and I add it. So here on the left-hand side, you see the collection AgriFeeds, and I already have one RSS feed that I'm following. Let's add a couple more. Let's go to the homepage of CGR. You have the RSS icon here. I'll click on it. I'll get an RSS feed URL. Again, you see the RSS feed itself is unformatted and it's rather jitterish. But again, this is with the most recent updates up on the top, and that's exactly what we want. So I'll take the URL, I copy it, and I'll paste it again into Feedly. And I'll add the URL, and I'll add it to Feedly. I will also add it to my AgriFeeds collection. And as you might see on the left-hand side, the list of all of the RSS feeds I'm adding to my AgriFeeds collection in Feedly keeps on growing. I'll add one more as an illustration. Let's take the Landscapes Forum website. Again, the art of collecting the URLs for the RSS feeds is to be able to find them somewhere on the website. Typically, they are on the top side of the website or at the bottom, or there's somewhere in one of the widgets on the side. So here I click again on the RSS feed and I copy the URL. I put it into my Feedly account and add it. I'll put it in the same collection, AgriFeeds. So in here now, we have a Feedly account which is following 3 RSS feeds. CGR, the one from the GLF, and the GFAR blog. So if we look a little bit how this looks like, if we click on AgriFeeds, which is the collection of all of the feeds, I see all of the updates from all of the URLs, from all of the RSS feeds that I'm following. I can browse these now in different visual presentations. So this is the most simple one. These are all of the updates from all of the RSS feeds that I have collected so far, which are 3 of them. This is the most simple layout. I can change it to a magazine layout, so it gives me the thumbnail of each of the feed items. These are each of the latest updates for each of those websites, all mixed and mashed up together. So I can browse these through these, or I can have a slightly simpler format using cards, which shows every item as one reading card. If I go to the one that I mainly use is the one with titles only. If I click on any of these items, I see the summary of that item. Actually, information which was from the RSS feed that Feedly has pulled in. So you basically here have a summary of the article. Some RSS feeds actually broadcast the full post content in the feed itself. Let me pull up another one. this is typically how it looks. If I click on an icon, I see the summary and I see a thumbnail. And if I click on visit website, I go to actually the original website where this feed item is coming from. In this case, it comes from Fish Center. Once I'm in the window where I zoom into an individual item in my feed, I can share it easily on my Twitter or my Facebook or my LinkedIn. So if you make a collection of RSS feeds of things that you are interested in, it makes it very easy to share it either on your personal Facebook or on your organizations or institute social media collections. I also use it to make a bookmark. So I have a bookmark reader where the most important feed items that I found and put them in Instapaper, which is the bookmark tool that I use. So this is a very simple collection of RSS feeds. If you look at how it looks like when it's a little bit more filled up, we go to my personal account, my Feedly account, which is here. Here you see a number of feeds, which are actually collections by themselves. So these are, for me, I don't read newspapers anymore. I collected the URLs from RSS feeds from about 150 or 200 newspapers. And these are all of the feeds matched together. So you see this way, I can very easily look through the latest items that were published on these websites. I have somebody who's going in background noise. All right, okay. Just remember to keep the microphone muted. All right. We have a user 1973. If you could please mute. Thank you. So this is a little bit more populated RSS feed reader. Here is a collection of, I think we have a collection of almost 500 RSS feeds. So the principle is still the same. If I click on any of these, I see the summary of this news item, and I can visit the original website. Here it would put me probably somewhere, or it puts me on time, and I can read the original web article. I have these feeds for magazines. I have these feeds for newspapers. I also have these feeds, for instance, here is a collection of feeds that I have for blogs and websites that I follow on social media. Now, these might become very cluttered. So I can imagine if you have a collection of hundreds of RSS feeds that you want to follow, then the list here on the left might become very cluttered. So we might add an extra step. But first, let me see, Tanya, if we have any questions coming in through the chat box.
No, I don't see any particular questions, Peter.
Okay. I saw Peter Burry said he's moving from FeedSpot, which is not bad, to Feedly. Indeed, there are a number of RSS readers which are available. I used to use Google Reader, which was very plain, very simple, but also very good. Unfortunately, Google took it out of service, I think 1 or 2 years ago. And this was my main RSS reader. When I had my coffee in the morning, this is how I read my news. When I took it out of service, I scanned the market, and I found Feedly to be the most reliable one. I rarely had an occasion where the tool was down, but also the easiest one to add feeds or to bring them in different collections. But indeed, Peter is right. FeedSpot is one of those readers. We also have Flipboard, which is a reader mostly geared towards mobile devices. If anybody else is using another RSS feed reader you want to share, please put it in the chat box. Again, do put questions and tips and remarks in the chat box. Oh, we have one from Ikram. Super easy and straight. Yeah, go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, she said that right now she set it up following your guidance, that it's super easy and straightforward. How can we link my Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. to Feedly?
Yeah, there's two ways that we could use Facebook and Twitter towards Feedly. The way that I use it, if you go to and you read an item, for instance, let me read an item here. I can share it through the Twitter and the Facebook accounts. Normally, when you click on it, it will ask you to log in to your Twitter or your Facebook account. This is to broadcast the title and the URL of that particular article if you find it interesting to be shared. I know that many people are using it on a personal account. I also do know that several organizations are linking the corporate Twitter and Facebook accounts to broadcast news of interest to their readers. On the other way around, one of the disadvantages that feed readers have is they cannot, in generally, they cannot mix up your Twitter account and what you would normally see in your timeline of your Twitter account, the timeline of your Facebook account, and mix that up into your Feedly overview, as you see here. It's only websites and blogs or anything that has an RSS feed. Personally, I like to keep the two isolated. Twitter and Facebook updates have a particular purpose for me. Again, I use Twitter mostly for timely updates, something that happens in real time I want to follow in real time, or as a source of search information. Facebook is much more geared towards my friends and family and some colleagues rather than reading the news, reading the updates. So personally, I wouldn't like my Facebook updates and my Twitter updates to be meshed up with all of the data that comes from the different websites. I see other questions are coming in.
We have one from Kathleen, which is similar to Max's question. How do you pull Google Alerts into the Feedly account?
Kathleen has Kathleen has watched my screen here. I have a number of Google Alerts in here. I will go into detail in my wrap-up document how I configure them. But Google Alerts are actually automated Google searches. So for instance, I do regular Google searches on the mentioning of our organization in the news or on the web. I do regular searches on keywords such as aid work or humanitarian work or poverty. If you work for CIMIT, for instance, you would be interested on anything which is has the word maize or wheat in it. And we can automate those searches, and these are called Google Alerts. And we can also import Google Alerts into Feedly. It's a good question, Kathleen. In the wrap-up document, I'll give you a step-by-step how to import Google Alerts into your reader. But that shows that actually with Feedly, you can not only combine different RSS feeds in collections, as we have here my collection news feeds, but you can also pull in other functionalities such as automated Google searches, which I use quite a bit. So I don't have to, if you want to find the latest, that anywhere on the website, not just the ones that I follow in RSS feeds, have broadcasted on the topics of my interest, I can have Google import them into Feedly. Other questions, Tanya?
No more questions.
Yeah. I see Max also asked in the uncategorized list the Google Alerts. So I'll go into detail in the wrap-up document which will also give a step-by-step how to configure a Feedly account. So you don't have to go into details here. People joining up. Tanya, if you can mute, we have someone who joined up who's not muted. Moira, you are broadcasting video and audio. Can you please mute your video and your microphone? Yeah, can you mute your microphone, please, Moira? Because otherwise I'll have a background noise. Tanya, can you override him?
I'm trying. My browser's slow today.
Very good. Thanks. We're back in the quiet. All right. Let me see. Catching up on the other chats. If any other remarks came in.
Yes. There's a question here. Sorry. From Veronica. It says, how about ResearchGate?
Yeah. There are different social media tools, such as, we covered some of them, Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. ResearchGate is an excellent social media networking tool. It's very specifically for researchers. It is a great networking tool. It's also a tool where, as researcher, we can see the latest published research or research projects from fellow researchers. So this is also a way to keep informed, just like Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn is a source of information. However, tools like ResearchGate, just like Twitter and Facebook, do not give you a tool to easily pick up the latest updates from all of the different blogs and websites that we want to follow. But research is indeed a good networking tool and a way to keep informed on the latest published research. That's correct. Any more, Tanya?
Yeah, we have Angela Orlando. She says, looks like a lot of information to browse through or to sort through. How much time do you spend each day browsing these feeds?
I'm working on different professional areas, and I'm also interested in the news. So I have my total collections include about 1,500 to 2,000 feeds that I collected over the past maybe 8 years. What I do in the morning, instead of reading the newspaper, and I have Feedly on my mobile phone. I live in Italy, like some of you, including Peter, who's online. In the morning, what I do is I go to the cafe, I have a coffee, I have my croissant, and I scan through the news. But I don't read each of the items. What I do is I browse through the titles, and if I find a title that is of interest to me, I click on it, it opens up the summary. If it is of more interest to me, I read the full article. For me, in the work that I do, it is important that I keep an overview of what's happening in the world of social media, but also in the world of food security. So these tools like Feedly help me to get an overview by browsing through the titles and reading the summaries. I do not read all of the articles which are published daily on those 1,500 to 2,000 websites. That would be impossible. It would make it too cluttered for the mind. So typically, I browse through all of the updates from these sites, which takes me about half an hour. And I read maybe from all of those sites, I might read maybe a dozen articles more in depth. If they're really interesting and I need to work on them, or I need to concentrate on it, I bookmark it. And then when I'm back home, I actually work on it in detail. So that was on the question, I think, from Angela. So I browse daily 1,500, 2,000, but I might read about a dozen which are of real interest to me.
Yeah, she also says that if there are ways to filter the results to the most important ones for you. So these are the first ones that you see.
Yeah, in Feedly, if we, let me see, I'm still shared here, right? I think Tanya is sharing her screen at the moment. Let me.
No, I'm not.
Are you not? Do you see my Feedly screen?
We see your Google. You're still in Google Alerts. Yes, the Feedly screen.
Very good. So if we go through Feedly, the way that the items are presented are sequential. So it is the most recent published update from all of the sites which are combined in your collection. It is the most recently first. It is possible to, when you enter a feed into Feedly, to say, I want to mark this RSS feed to be more important than the others. So Feedly will push it up on top. So you can do this, yes. I don't do this because, again, it becomes cluttered. I would rather suggest that you make different collections. One, let's say, with the general news, one with news that you find really important and you want to look at first. So you have different collections of RSS feeds, rather than within each of the collection, mark certain sites to be more important than others. That would be my solution. More questions, Tanya?
We have also a comment from Michaela Isa to Ekram. Suggestion, she says, just to share another way to connect your Feedly to social media accounts. Buffer is a great tool to help you easily integrate your RSS feeds to Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. It was another suggestion that maybe you all can consider as well. Thank you for that.
Yeah, Buffer is a tool indeed that makes it easy from your RSS feeds to broadcast onto Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. That's correct. It is, however, of course, not an RSS reader. So it makes it easier to broadcast stuff from the different RSS feeds onto your social media outputs. That's correct.
There's also a comment here from Boris Rantaza who says that also Nuzzle or Noozle is great for social network news.
I don't know those. I'll have a look at it, and I'll give my impression on the in the wrap-up document.
Okay. So Daisy from eCraft says, so Feedly will take over media aggregators like Meltwater.
Yeah, Meltwater is, for those who don't know, is a commercial aggregator that is mostly used by organizations or institutes or companies to do brand scouting. So Meltwater is a service that scans all of the online media for a particular brand. Say that you work for, let's say, Mercedes, and you want to have a daily aggregated list of all of the articles, of all of the blogs and news outlets worldwide that have a mention of your brand name, Mercedes. So Meltwater does this on a paid basis. They scan everything online, and actually Meltwater very often goes deeper than Google, strangely enough, that scans all of the publications that come online and give you a daily or a weekly summary of your brand name. They also allow you to configure the sources where you want to exclude some of the spam sites, for instance. So this is mostly a brand recognition tool that looks on the web for a specific keyword. Personally, I don't use Meltwater, but I've used extensive Google Alerts for searches for particular brand names for organizations that I work for. So yes, Daisy, you're right. Meltwater, you can see them as an aggregator of particular news. It is a paid service. You could use it as an RSS feed or be it a rather expensive one. I would advise it though to use it as an overview tool to get brand mentioning on the web. Tanya?
Yes, we have a comment from Basilis. Sorry,
Yes.
I can't pronounce Basilis from Agrono. Says this is also a great way of keeping up to date with related news while commuting to work. He says if you don't have a mobile data plan, you can also download the RSS feeds before you leave home or the office, and then go through them offline while on the road.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's probably a good way to make your commuting time a little bit more useful, except, of course, if you're stuck in the famous Rome traffic. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
Peter mentions, go ahead.
Yeah, no more questions.
Okay. There was one remark on filtering of items. I'll look at it a little bit more in detail. We have background noise again. Okay, thank you for muting. There was one remark from Veronica saying, I'm going rather fast. Yes, what I want to do in this webinar is to give you an overview of what the problem is, what the different solutions are. The details of the configuration of those tools I will give in the wrap-up document. So at this moment, I want to give you a flare of the problem and the solution to see if this is an area that would solve also your challenge. And then we can go deeper into the technical details in the wrap-up document. It's rather difficult to go into details here. So that's why I'm going rather quickly over the different tools, and I hope that's okay for yourself. Okay, Tanya, we go into, I'll stop sharing my screen. We go into the presentation again, and we were at the last summary slide. I'm giving you a lot of work today, Tanya. All right. Now, we saw one of the two tools I wanted to discuss with you today. And we could stop here. It's perfectly technically possible to import your RSS feeds one by one into Feedly. Feedly will nicely aggregate them and show you summaries. And Peter says Feedly filters also, so I'll go a little bit into that in the wrap-up document. And from there, share them onto Twitter and Facebook, etc., etc. However, it becomes a little bit cluttered on the summary side. If indeed you have hundreds and hundreds of RSS feeds. Plus, also for other tools, RSS feeds are interesting. RSS feeds can also be used to automatically feed items in the RSS feed onto Twitter and Facebook, for instance. So you might come to an occasion where it would be interesting to do one step before Feedly, before the reader, and actually do a pre-aggregation. What is a pre-aggregation? An RSS feed aggregator is one that takes, let's say, 20 RSS feeds, pulls them together, and generates a new RSS feed, which is a combination of all of those different feeds together. And this is actually what I have done in, I'll share my screen again, Tanya. This is actually what I have done in my Feedly. If you look here on the left-hand side, what you see here is actually not one RSS feed, but it is an already pre-aggregated RSS feed of about, I think, about 100 different sources. So you don't see 100 or 150 different URLs, RSS URLs on the left. You see a full aggregation. And for that, I use a tool called Feed Informer. Tanya?
You're not sharing your screen? Can you please?
I should be broadcasting it. Yeah. You have them now, Tanya?
Yes, it's loading. Yes?
Okay, very good, thanks. So here on the left-hand side, these three feeds are not individual websites. They're already a collection of something I have processed before I pull them into Feedly. And for this, I use a tool, Feed Informer. Feed Informer is an aggregator. It's a tool, again, it's a free tool that allows you to combine many different RSS feeds into one output RSS feed. And I have used this to pre-process my feeds before I pull them into Feedly. How does this work? They work in collections called digests. Each of those have, I have pre-configured, each of those have different URLs. So if we go into one, for instance, I have one collection which is news magazines. If I look at the list of all of the different URLs, you see here all of the different URLs of all of the different feeds I have pulled together. So each of these are a feed, an RSS URL. This tool automatically combines all of those feeds and outputs an RSS feed with the most recent items first. So it's like a preprocessor or an aggregator. If you look at my output feed, this is how the RSS output from Feed Informer works like or looks like. It is, again, an RSS feed, but all preprocessed, a combination of 20 or 30 different RSS feeds. How does this work? And I'll try to go, Veronica, I'll try to go slowly. Say that I want to combine three RSS feeds. I create a new digest. I'll give it a name. For instance, this will be an aggregated feed of all my agriculture websites, agriculture research website. And I create. I then have to, just like in Feedly, I have to pull in all of the different feeds I want to aggregate in here. Remember, this is an aggregator, not a reader. So we had, for instance, the CGR RSS feed that we saw previously. Let me pull this in here. Add. I'll add the GFAR blog RSS feed URL. Add. And we have the one from the Global Landscapes Forum. This was their feed. I'll add it. So it's almost like making a collection, something that we saw in the Feedly tool. Voila. I have now made a digest, an aggregation of three different input RSS feeds. If we now look at what this tool gives you as output, go here, and I take this RSS feed. This is the output RSS feed. So this is the combination of those three input feeds that I gave. Let's have a look how it looks like. Voila. So this is not anymore the RSS feed from the original websites I have pulled in, but it's the aggregated one. But it keeps all of the properties. This means that the titles are the same, the dates are the same, the thumbnails are the same, and the summary text is the same. So this is a new RSS feed URL. I can then copy this RSS feed of my collection and pull it into my Feedly. So remember, we had this Feedly of the 3 sites. Let me create another collection, which is the one which I have just created on Feed Informer. I'll add it, and I'll actually create a new collection, which is my super aggregated agri-feeds. Voila. And there we go. So I have now pulled in the RSS feed, which I have created, aggregating X amount of other feeds. And you would actually see that the contents would be more or less the same. If this tool has already updated, refreshed its caches in the right way, it would show the all of the items, the same items between the two, because actually I pulled in the same feeds. So this is when you work with hundreds of feeds, a way to pre-process them. You pull them, all of these different RSS feeds, you pull them together in Feed Informer. Again, for me, it's the best and the most functional RSS feed aggregator that is on the market. Feed Informer. I will give you in the wrap-up document, again, the summary of the different steps you have to go through to configure these tools. It is quite simple, and each of them require about 10 different steps. I'll stop sharing for a moment, Tanya, and see if there's any questions.
I have a question, Peter.
Yes.
I saw that in the bottom that you had to pay for it. It said checkout or something. I mean, is it free or do you have to pay for it?
No, the payment is actually for another functionality. You can include the aggregated feeds on your website in a widget, and they put publicity in between. So if you don't want this, then you pay for it. But in the output RSS feed, the functionality that we use it for, there is no publicity ads which are inserted, so we don't have to pay.
Okay. We have a question here from Veronica. It says, how about the ResearchGate blog?
We could.
Alert. Can we also add them to the RSS feed?
Yes, yes, you can. I do not know the ResearchGate blog. Let me just have a look. The art is always, when you have a website that interests you, is to be able to find the RSS feed. So let's do this interactively. I'll share my screen again, Tanya. Coming up. Screen. Okay, there we have it. So I looked, Veronica was mentioning ResearchGate blog, so I Googled it, and I found this. So say that this is a blog that would be of interest to you. What we need to do now is find out if it actually has an RSS feed. So what we do is we scan for icons, somewhere RSS feed. And I do not think that this blog has an RSS feed. I typically look at the bottom and the top. I don't see any RSS feeds on this. And I have in my browser a little tool that automatically detects an RSS feed. There is none. So unfortunately, this website doesn't have an RSS feed. So this means I cannot use it in my tool. There are tools available that can scrape content and create an RSS feed out of it, but I haven't come across any of those that is really reliable. So unfortunately, I think it was Veronica who asked this question. If they don't broadcast an RSS feed, you won't be able to find it. I can go a little bit deeper into details. Let me see just quickly in the source if they broadcast an RSS feed in the source. No, they don't. So this blog, unfortunately, Veronica, you can't import because it doesn't publish an RSS feed. Tanya, back to you.
Yes, we have A question from Mitali, who says, "What is output filter?"
Output filter. You're already going and digging into the Feed Informer tool. Huh? Very good. Let me go back again to my screen. We're doing a lot of switching to and fro here today. All right. All right. You went already a little bit deeper into the tool. So output filter. I need to sign in again. It's one of the functionalities in the Feed Informer. So here I can define how my items in the output RSS feed that this aggregator is giving me, how they're sorted. I can sort them either by item date, alphabetically by title. I can combine them by source feed. I can do it, with the date with the oldest first or the newest first. Of course, in RSS feed, we mostly use the newest first. But I can also add filters. What sometimes happens is that even if you're careful in selecting the RSS feeds from the websites that are of interest to you, and even if you are quite selective in choosing those blogs and websites, there might still be noise in it. The filters, the AND or the OR filters, allow you for this tool to look through each of those feed items and to include or exclude items with certain keywords. So for instance, say that you work in an agriculture research center, which only works on maize. And you found many RSS feeds on agriculture, but you're actually only interested from all of those websites on any of the blog posts or website updates that contain the word maize. Then you can say in here, you can say, I only want in my output RSS feed those items that contain maize. So I would put in here maize and click on Save Changes. So it would give me an aggregated RSS feed using a filter on a keyword. And of course, you can use different ANDs. I only want the items which have either maize or wheat or let's say grains, for instance. Or I can use an implicit filter. I want to have only the items which contain and the word maize and the word wheat and the word grains and the word genotyping, for instance, if I want to make a real selective filter. Now, this is quite powerful because it allows you to use this tool to scan a massive amount of different blogs and websites and to do the pre-filtering for you. And I know what Daisy is thinking. Daisy would think, okay, but I can then also probably use it as a way that I use Meltwater to do my brand recognition. If I would put in here, for instance, all of the websites that I'm monitoring, and I want to scan them for the words ICRAF or World Agroforestry Center, for instance. I could do that. So I could use it almost like a brand recognition scanner. But it is on a finite number of input URLs. Tanya?
Stay right there, because Angela Orlando also asks that she doesn't understand the advantage of this RSS aggregator. Doesn't look like it condenses information. So if you then pull it into Feedly, don't you just end up with the same output as if you were to put each individual RSS feed into Feedly?
Yes, that's correct, Angela. I'll go and put into my share my screen again. All right. Let's go and look at the feedly that I configured here. I actually configured them with two of the same feeds. So as the tools are updating, I would actually see in aggregates, which is the aggregated feed of these three websites, CGR, the Global Landscapes Forum, and GFAR blog, I would see exactly the same items as I would see in my output from Feedly. However, if you only scan three blogs, three websites, or let's say 10 or 15, that's fine. Don't use the second tool, pull them directly into Feedly. However, if you have many websites that you scan, then on the left-hand side here, this becomes very cluttered, where you have 100 of those individual ones. There's advantages and disadvantages. I like loads of things, but I don't like them cluttered. So as I scan over 1,000 different feeds, here on my left side, I would have a directory of those 1,000 feeds. That's why I pre-aggregate them. But you're totally right, Angela. The functionality is almost the same, although one includes the reader, Feedly. The advantage, however, if you only have a few websites and not pre-processing them with Feed Informer, is that you can actually go through each of the individual feeds for each of the individual websites. So that is an additional, if I only want to see the websites from the Global Landscapes Forum, here you have them. You only want to see the latest updates from the GFAR blog, here you have them. If you already pre-process them, of course, you don't have that anymore. They're already pre-aggregated. Again, I do this because I have so many feeds that I follow. Go ahead, Tanya.
Sorry, the questions here. So the other ones were more like notes from Vasilis, who says, you can always test a website for RSS feed by adding its URL in Feedly. So he provides, the way to check, basically, how to see if a site has a feed. And then Boris Rantasa says, optional question, how to include an RSS in your website? I mean, how to add an RSS to my blog if it's not there yet?
Okay, just a second. I'm still sharing my screen. Let's have a look if we can help Veronica with her RSS feed for the ResearchGate blog. So what we do it here is, instead of putting the RSS feed, we put the URL of the blog itself. Let's see what RSS feed says. What Feedly says, it says, sorry, no feed found. So it would not be, it's not able to find an RSS feed. This, of course, can help you if you just add the URL itself. It can help you find hidden RSS feeds. But I hope your web manager is actually good enough. He or she doesn't hide RSS feeds. On the question from Boris, I can see where he comes from. Previously I was rather strict in saying that if I find websites or blogs which don't have RSS feeds, that this is a waste of resources. And probably Boris looked at one of the websites from his institute. It is not easy as a web manager or a blog manager to add an RSS feed as a publishing. So here we actually switched the roles around. I'm no longer reading RSS feed updates, but I'm going as a web manager, say, well, hey, I want to follow Peter's credo, and I do want to publish RSS feeds on my website. How do I do that? Of course, if you use the let's say the most commonly used tools for blogs like WordPress, it's very easy. It's in the control panel. It is just a click to publish an RSS feed. It's reasonably easy on common tools such as Drupal or Typo3. Many of these tools actually allow you to publish multiple RSS feeds. If I can give you an example here of the GFAR website. Let's just load it up. And if we go find the RSS icon, this actually doesn't give you the RSS feed, but it gives you an overview of different RSS feeds. On GFAR, we publish updates, either all updates, or only the job opportunities, or only the latest events, or only the updates on a particular project. You can find different feeds on some of the websites. However, Boris, the best thing I can advise you to do is to go and talk to your web manager and see with the tool that he or she is using how they can broadcast RSS feeds. Again, with the most commonly used tools, both for blogs and websites, it's very easy to enable RSS feeds. And I would encourage you to look at your own blogs and websites, see if you can find an RSS feed. Check if it is easy to find, if it is visible enough. Also, do check if it is still valid, because as I scan a lot of different websites, I regularly come across a website that pretends to broadcast an RSS feed, but the URL is outdated, or there's no more items in there, simply because the web manager somewhere lost track of it. But I hope, Boris, that helps you. If you use a particular tool, Boris, put it in the chat for your website. I know some of the tools pretty well, so I can tell you immediately by heart if you can publish or not.
Yes, hi. We use WordPress, but not the WordPress.com. So it's a kind of a special variation on it. So I'll have to look for it, I guess.
Yeah, it is WordPress.org. So it is running on your service, on your server, Boris.
Yes, it's our institute's server.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as for a WordPress.com website. Let me just go and log in quickly, just a second, to one of my WordPress.com sites. Sorry, WordPress.org websites. I think it is in the dashboard on the settings reading, where you have to enable. Yeah, this is the it's in the settings in reading where you can enable your RSS feed, Boris. So in your dashboard, settings, reading settings. And there you can also define how many items you want to publish in your RSS feed. If you want a full text or only a summary. If you have the URL, Boris, if you can put it in the chat, I can manually look as an exercise to see if we can actually find the RSS feed. Tanya, any more questions?
No, no more questions.
Okay, I'm just waiting for Boris to give me the URL, and then we can scout if we can find an RSS feed on his blog. All right, there we go.
Please don't shake your head too much. We're under heavy renovation. But I like the latest blog post. So if you have the time, please read it. That's all.
Yeah. Even if I would shake my head, I don't have my video on. All right. So here is a website that, for instance, Boris would like to monitor. Of course, this is a theoretical exercise because this is actually the blog from his organization, his project. We will now go through this as we would be a normal user. So what is going to be the challenge is for us to find, okay, where do we find the RSS icon? So I go through it just like any other user, and I don't see any RSS icon. Typically, I would put them up here where you have the Twitter and the Facebook one. I would put an RSS icon, or here, follow me. I would, remember we're trying to hook people. We want to convert an occasional visitor into returning visitor. So I want to hook them to follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on LinkedIn, but also to follow our RSS feeds. So that they can pull it into their RSS reader, and amongst all of the other websites that they're monitoring, see the latest. And it's not there. However, I'm of course a little bit more of an advanced user. So I have in my Firefox browser, I have a little plugin that shows me here in the URL whether technically this site is broadcasting an RSS feed. And apparently you do. And you broadcast several ones. You have an RSS feed for your complete site, not only for the blogs. So there it is. You have you're broadcasting another one, which is only for the category blogs, which is here. So in here, Boris, your problem is not that your site does not broadcast an RSS feed. It does. And actually, when you use WordPress.org, it does it automatically. Your challenge is that on the website itself, there is no icon for people to easily discover your RSS feed. And not everybody is a sophisticated user where they have, like me, they have a little add-on in their browser that detects an RSS feed, Boris, if that answers your question.
Thank you very much. We'll also put that into the plan to work on. So thanks. Just
add an icon, and I'll add your RSS feeds in the chat box. If people are interested, I can also give the information on the browser plugin that I use to detect RSS feeds. Again, this is for cases where you're not too sure, well, did the webmaster actually forget to put an icon in there? And are they still broadcasting an RSS feed or not? Browser RSS detection. I'll give you also the RSS feed of your whole website updates, Boris, in this one. Voila. There you go. And Daisy says, shakes head. All right. We're coming close to the end of this this webinar. If you have any questions, now is the time to ask them. You can unmute to ask a question, or you can put them in the chat box. Meanwhile, I'll wrap up what we've done in this webinar. And let me put my video back on again so you see me again, and you see me shaking my head. There we go. There we go. So in this webinar, we try to address the problem. How do we keep ourselves updated on the information which is published on dozens, hundreds, if not thousands of different websites and blogs? Apart from the tools that we have like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, the way to do this is for each of those websites or blogs which are of interest to us to find the URL of the RSS feed and to pull this into an RSS reader. For this, in the example, the tool that I use, we use Feedly. So for each of those websites, you copy and paste the URL into Feedly. And there you have then an aggregated list of all of the latest updates for all of the blogs and all of the websites that are of interest to you. If you have a lot of websites, then I'm talking, more than 50 websites that you follow, and you want to pre-process them, so you don't clutter your Feedly with a list of 50 or 100 or like me 1,500, 2,000 different URLs of feeds. You can pre-process them in a tool that takes different RSS feeds and outputs another RSS feed, which then we can import into Feedly. Then we use a tool called Feed Informer, and that's about the only tool that works reliably for me. So this is basically the summary of today's talk, the problem and the solution. Let me see. I saw some chats that came in. Tanya, any more questions?
We have Moira who says, to view feeds in Safari, download an RSS reader from the Mac App Store. Any experience with this?
It's true that the Safari doesn't show the RSS feeds easily. Now, you might download an RSS feeder in Safari, but this is only to read the RSS from one particular feed. It does not aggregate a group of feeds. So that would solve your solution if you want to read the RSS from one particular website. Like we have on my screen now, the RSS feed that we had from Boris's website. So the Safari plugin would basically show you something like this. But of course, this is from one particular website, and this is not what you want to use. So I wouldn't do that. I would use Feedly because I want to find multiple at the same time. Anything more, Tanya? You were still muted. I see one question. Go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, no. Boris, who mentions a thank you and feel free to follow our blog. Lots of interesting posts on forests and biodiversity coming in the coming weeks or months.
Yep.
So we have, yeah, thank you from Vivian as well. Really informative. From Jennifer, she says, thanks, Peter and Tanya, for a helpful session. Looking forward to the wrap-up document. Signing off now, very early Wednesday morning, Sydney time. So thank you, Jennifer, for joining. Says from Mitali, we have a question. Are there any filter for Facebook updates?
Yes and no. I hate Facebook. I really hate Facebook. It's so cluttered and so difficult and limited to manage. It's time that somebody introduces a tool which is similar to Facebook, which is a little bit more flexible. Also, the Facebook makes it very difficult to search for content, and it's very incomplete when you search for specific items. That's why I always use it as an example compared to LinkedIn, where in LinkedIn it's very easy to find people that work in your professional area because it has a very good search. In Facebook, it's near to impossible. So coming back to the answer, there is no way. This is my personal Facebook. This is my timeline. So these are all the people that I have subscribed to. Let me correct this. This is the feed, the Facebook updates of all of the people I subscribe to and regularly interact with. So this is already pre-filtered by Facebook, saying, well, you might have 200 friends, but you only interact with 20. So here I'll give you the update from the 20 because that's probably the only ones that you're going to be interested in. There is a built-in way to unfilter that. So here on the left-hand side, you can say, by default, it says top stories. The top stories in Facebook terminology means the ones the updates from the people you mostly and the pages you mostly interact with. You can undo that and say, I want the most recent, which means that Mr. Facebook, do not filter based on the pages and the people that I interact with, but give me all of the updates. And you see here that it changes my updates. And that is the only way that I know filtering works. I have not found a way that in Facebook you can say, listen, thank you, I have these 300, 400 pages that I am following. I would like to have only the ones which contain the words maize and wheat, for instance. That doesn't exist. No. Tanya?
Yes, we have a question here from Angela. It says, I see people talking about FARC. What do you know about that?
Yeah.
FARC.
There are a number of websites that by themselves are aggregators. I'll include a number of them in my wrap-up document. I'll give you an example. I'll share my screen again. In our area of work, let's say agriculture, food security, there are a number of websites that pre-aggregate information for us, and they publish it as website content. My computer is getting slow now. I'm just waiting for my share screen to come up. Voila, entire screen. One example in here is, for instance, CGR. In CGR, if you go to the What's New in Research page, this is actually pre-aggregated information. So these are items that they themselves have collected from their 50 research centers and their 16 research programs. It's the same if you go to GFAR and you go to the information gateway. This is already pre-aggregated information coming in from different other websites. So these guys have built aggregation websites, and I'll give you a couple of those of examples in the wrap-up document. FARC is more or less the same. It is an aggregation. I'll bring it up. It is an aggregation website where actually users submit content, and it's in the, let's say, the more popularistic area of our market. So it's typically the the jokes and the hottest news and the latest news. So it is an aggregation website based on what the users of FARC, the users, submit. And it takes a little bit of time to load at the moment. There is another one which is used a lot in the aggregation world, but which is moderated, which is called Boing Boing. I don't know if you ever heard of this. This is again a website that does nothing else but aggregate news from other sites, and they kind of put their little commentary in there. Yes. So for the question, yes, I know FARC. It does not allow you to pull in feeds from your selection, but you're basically limited to what people submit themselves. And the same is in the other aggregators like this Boing Boing. But I'll give a couple of examples in the wrap-up document. Tanya?
No, we have other comments of participants thanking. Boris mentioned here to filter and aggregate Facebook and Twitter. Nuzzle is a great tool. It shows you the news that most people share. It's also available for iPad and iPhone. Then we have comments from Mitali, who says, thank you so much, Peter. Looking forward to your wrap-up document and would also like to join your webinar on 16th March. Michaela says her best takeaway from today's webinar is the RSS aggregator feedinformer.com. Very useful session. And from Deborah, we have this message, says this session has reconfirmed to me the use of RSS feeds and Feedly. We'll continue to try it more often to make reading information easier. That's about it. Many thank you messages, so thank you all as well. Peter, over to you. Peter, are you still there? Peter, for some reason, his connection is gone. Let's wait a second for Peter to come back. Here he is. We can't hear you, Peter. If you can hear me, we cannot hear you. Let me unmute you.
In the wrap-up document,
Peter? Peter, now we hear you. Can you repeat what you said?
Yep,
For some
I was
reason
wrapping
you
up.
was in mute.
So in the wrap-up document, I'll give an overview of the tools to configure, the step-by-step configuration of Feedly, of Feed Informer, how to get Google Alerts into Feedly. I'll look up some information on Nuzzle, and then the what tool that I use in my browser to detect RSS feeds. I'll try to distribute the wrap-up document either later today or tomorrow morning at the latest. Thank you very much, Tanya. I know you're waiting to go to the airport. Have safe travels. For the rest of you, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you are subscribed to our next webinar, which is in 1 month from now on the 16th of March, which goes into the dark secrets of social media strategy and building a social media strategy for your organization. Unfortunately, if you're not subscribed, we've closed for participants because we're already over 100 and the technical tool limit for Blue Jeans is 100. But our broadcast will do another one in middle of April on another topic. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us and hope to see you all very soon. Thank you again, Tanya.
Peter, sorry, we have one last question here from Peter J. Says, does anyone know of Friends Plus Me? Similar to Buffer?
I didn't hear that question.
From Peter J. He says, does anyone know Friends Plus Me? Similar to Buffer? Is that another tool? Are there many alternatives to Buffer, like Friends Plus Me?
I wouldn't know, Peter. Peter, what you could do is send me an email and see, because Buffer have different functionalities, what you would like to have as an alternative. I know that you worked, that somebody talked before in using Buffer, in taking RSS feeds and publishing content automatically or easily onto Twitter and Facebook or LinkedIn. If you need an alternative to that functionality, let me know, or just send me an email with what alternative that you would like to have for Buffer. Again, I'll let you guys go. Thanks very much. See you guys. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Peter. Sorry, I tech issues. Today my browser crashed twice. Although I think the recording continued, but I lost access to all the tabs. Do you have it open still? And copy it all.
Yeah, Tanya, I don't see the chat anymore.
Hey,
Yeah, it's gone.
yeah, what I'm doing, so because I have it connected still on my mobile, but I don't need to copy them from the mobile, but what I'm doing, I'm taking screenshots to the initial questions, okay? And I'll send you the pictures.
Sure. That would be fine, Tanya, when you have time. I think I copied from the chat. I think I have most of the questions. The video will process automatically, no?
The what?
Video will process automatically, no?
Yeah, sorry, let me stop it.